Society.
Gary, would you mind coming right up to the...
Or using the microphone right in front of you.
Oh, yep, perfect, yep.
Okay. Is it on?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Gary Bagley, and we have two other members here, Larry Wall and Val Chapman, who's our treasurer. Back early in the summer, we had a meeting with Susan because we have concerns about the future of the Historical Society building, a moisture problem primarily, which of course affects our collection. And Susan gave us our homework, which was, well, come up with options, come up with some cost estimates, and present it to the infrastructure committee. It has taken us all summer and then some to come up with the figures that we wanted, because it's very difficult with contractors. They're very busy, and some are, unless they're positive they'll get the job, that they want to give a precise. But we did manage to. I think you have the printout that was sent to Susan earlier this week. We did get a quote on the foundation and 2 quotes on moving the building, and then, thanks to Larry Wall, additional plumbing, electrical, etc. I think what you see is that this is not a $2 million project to move that building street side on a full foundation. The second option would be to leave the building in its present location, jack it up, and put in a 4-foot frost wall. And the third option that we considered was moving it to another viable Main Street location, and about the only one vacant lot is the Ledbetter lot next to Catherine's Antiques. I met with Jeff Ledbetter to see if he was interested in donating or selling the lot, and he said he was not, so that option was out. Any other movement, both of the movers said don't even consider trying to move it down the street where you have overhead lines, because the cost from the utility companies would kill your budget. It's just too expensive. The Historical Society has voted unanimously that option 1, which is moving us up street side on a full foundation, is preferable. And we consider that a win-win. It's a win for us in that we have a full foundation, will alleviate our moisture problem, and we can preserve the heritage of Bucksport. And number 2, it gives us greater visibility being street side. And I might add, it's not a bad looking building to have on Main Street. We think it would be a win for the town because the full daylight basement would give the town opportunity, if they so desired. It could be used for retail space, or it could be used to incorporate your public restrooms, a garage for your waterfront equipment, and that way you would have the space that now is taken up by the public restrooms, the footprint of where the museum is now. You could get rid of your trailer, and you would have a lot of space on that waterfront, which is a gem in Bucksport. You should be very proud of it, to redevelop and make better use of that space. Recently it's come to my attention, and I will raise it now, but I see that number 5, outdoor meeting space request. I don't know if anyone is here to address it, but my understanding is that the
Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition.
yeah, I'll let Val speak to it.
And I don't know, is Mary Jane making a presentation via Zoom?
Yeah.
We just thought it part of the build was a deck on the above the basement level, and that deck would offer space for the outdoor shelter from the sun.
Here is a sketch.
Hi, hold on. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. They're talking about the Historical Society, but it's kind of bloomed into meeting space. Okay, hold on.
And these we copies to send around.
Can you hear us, Mary Jane?
Yes.
Okay. Mary Jane Bush is on the phone.
Okay. So in the basement area, you can have an information center as well, and there's copies coming around of Brian and Larry did.
Can she mute her TV?
Yes. Yes, I can.
That's going to continue unless we ask her to mute her TV, I think.
Is that what that is?
Yep, she's got it, yep.
Can you mute your TV?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we get one of
So
these.
what is
Yep.
coming around is for a copy of the proposed drawing of how the daylight basement could be used by the town. And there's one copy that shows what it would look like with the deck on 3 sides of the museum. And how that ties into the outdoor meeting space that I believe Mary Jane was going to address. My understanding is that they're looking for an outside meeting place because older people are particularly concerned about COVID and meeting indoors. And I think we have to admit probably COVID is going to be around in one form or another. And the deck would provide an outdoor meeting space, so that makes it a win-win-win situation. It also is a one-time expenditure. Once we're moved and up, we're set. The museum, I want to just briefly say, is not just for the people of Bucksport. This summer, and we're only open July and August, this summer we had visitors from 30 other Maine towns and cities and 25 other states. We also have special events there. We had, last Thursday I gave the Senior Center a private tour of the museum. We did craft demonstrations for Maine Crafters Weekend that were well attended. We do a lecture series. We've had 2 lectures this fall. Our membership is growing. We've just added 4 or 5 new members just recently. So we're a viable operation, and we feel it's our responsibility to preserve and present the history of Bucksport. And Bucksport has a very rich history. And I'll share an anecdote. This summer when I was there, 2 women from Jefferson, Maine came over. They had never been to Bucksport. And they came specifically because they'd heard through the grapevine about the antique quilts we had, and they were quilters. And they wanted to see the quilts, and they toured the museum. And then they said, well, we've never been here. It's a beautiful town. We're going to spend the rest of the afternoon visiting some shops and then have dinner down at McLeod's. So there, it does attract people from out of town, which benefits local business. Questions?
So, Gary, how would the Historical Society maintain the building and,
The way we always maintain.
but heat and, all the
Oh,
additional
no,
new
no.
expenses, where's that going to come from?
We're not going to heat the building. It would not be heated.
Okay. Does that affect the climate control aspect, or is it just the moisture that's an issue?
The moisture, what museum professionals have told us, is the moisture. As a matter of fact, they say that cold has no impact on the
Okay.
collection, which I never knew.
Seems counterintuitive, but if they
I
say
know,
so.
I know.
Is for example, the deck and everything in Mr. Wall's drawing, is that included in the price listed here under option 1?
Yes.
It is.
It is.
It's included in the part of the town, right, or is it?
Well,
part of the museum, or-
what we did is break the proposal down I don't have the back of the town.
It should be on second page.
Oh, yes, it is, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you go to the second page, estimate to develop the basement by the town, those are just estimates if the town wants to proceed with the idea of using it for, you know, adding the deck, which would address the outdoor meeting space as well as to give people a beautiful view out over the bay. You know, information center, garage, public restrooms, those are some estimates. So it's been broken down in like two projects, but the project would be to get the museum moved up street level on the foundation so that we can operate, okay? And then the second project, or you could combine them, I suppose, would be the cost to the town to utilize the basement space, however they would like to. Two things we would ask. Number one, if it was decided by the town to put a garage under the museum, please, no gas vehicles. Because the fumes, if you start a gas vehicle under, then we're going to have not a moisture problem, we're going to have a gas fume problem, which would be detrimental to the museum collection. And the other would be, if there is a deck put on, a three-sided deck as proposed, that the town assume liability for the deck.
We sort of solved the storage problem for our vehicles with the purchase of a trailer that comes to the waterfront in the season it's needed and goes back to the highway garage in the winter, so that we're you know, the idea of needing a garage under there, certainly there are other uses the town could put to it, but I don't think a concern over a garage would be, because the question several years ago was what to do about this little garage that was here in the parking lot, which is where we had things and they didn't all fit. So that went away, and we got the trailer that is, it's a seasonal usage, but it works very well for us now because our stuff is done that way. So that kind of negates that need, but that doesn't mean that the space wouldn't have a use. It just, you wouldn't have to worry about.
Well, you'd have to solve the problem of gas.
Yeah. Being asphyxiated.
So I had a question about that part. If there was space, I'm wondering, because of the number of events in that area, like with Wednesday on Main and other things, where there could be storage of chairs and other things that people would use for those events, it would be really handy. And if in fact there was meeting space that could be created on that deck, you know, that really would be very advantageous to have access to that storage.
Val?
I think we were thinking that the outdoor space would be under the deck, because the deck would offer shade, and not on top of the deck where you'd have to build a awning or something over it. I mean, either way, but that was what we had thought it would be used for, that under at the same level. That way the bathrooms would be right there, and whereas up on the deck they would not be.
Did you hear that, Mary Jane?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Any other questions?
Gary, would the intent be to be open more than 100 hours a year? It's such a focal point on Main Street?
That would depend, I think, on availability of volunteers to manage.
Would there, I mean, is there a progression plan to get to a director or anything in that respect?
No,
Or?
no. We're a small nonprofit. We're we're not casting or Bar Harbor.
If we had more volunteers, we could obviously be open like
Yeah,
June, the summer months.
right.
But we did not envision paying for insulation, new windows. It would cost a lot to get the building to a point where you want to heat it.
But, I mean, would it make any sense to explore whether finding a residence in the village? Because that's where a lot of historical societies are in houses. That would give you a year-round structure.
We own the
Yeah.
new museum. We would have to purchase.
Yeah, but all these, I mean, this kind of money is getting into that realm, no?
$100,000 to purchase a house.
No, I mean, if we're talking the whole thing, you know, there's quite a bit more. I mean, you're coming to the town looking for the town to pay, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, we've got 152 here, Valerie, on one quote.
Well, I would only say, Mark, I think we need to maintain a Main Street presence.
Wow. We've talked about this, I don't know if I agree. I mean, 100 hours a year, it's really tough to be, you know, and I know it requires capacity to be open more, but to make that commitment as a town and then not, if it were to fold, where would we be if we didn't?
Well, I think then the town would own a building.
Okay.
I just think, you know, your town motto, rich in heritage and looking to the future. Well, I think we should preserve that heritage. It's worth preserving.
I don't disagree.
It's worth being on Main Street. It's hard enough to get people to turn left at the light, as you're well aware. I mean, this is one of the problems in the configuration of downtown Bucksport, of course, is people come across that bridge and head to the Buck Memorial and then keep heading east. We do draw people from out of town, and we have the evidence of that even with our limited hours. There are other businesses and buildings on Main Street that are not open 12 months a year. And if there's a nice residence on Main Street the town would like to purchase, and, I mean, we could look at that, but if we're off Main Street, we're not going to be discovered. That's my feeling, and I feel very strongly about it.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with you, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree.
I don't know how, I mean, here's what I know, here, in terms of my opinion. My opinion is that going into, you know, well into my second term here on this council, this has been a conversation at various points throughout my entire time on the council. I also think that there's some, for lack of a better word, responsibility to make, because at some point we're going to reach a point where the things that are in there that are being affected by the moisture can't be saved.
And we've already reached that point at some items.
So so I think there's a couple of conversations here that need to happen. We need to resolve that problem first of all. I think the group from the Historical Society certainly has done everything that the town manager has asked them to do along that front. The other thing is I don't necessarily know how I feel about it, but I am inclined to agree that the Historical Society does belong on Main Street, and that building is a beautiful building, and is one that, you know, if it hadn't been moved, however many feet it's been moved, would be on the, you know, Register of Historic Places. So my point in saying all that is if we can come up with a way that's relatively efficient financially to save that, understanding Councilor Eastman's concerns, though, that is prime real estate being used, you know, sure, you're drawing people in, I don't dispute that, but the fact that you know, if the Historical Society is only open for 100 hours a year, it would be nice if we could find a way perhaps to expand that, but then you're turning a project into a real project. I totally understand that. And I'm inclined to agree that just putting option number 2 and option number 3 are more trouble probably than they're worth. And I am curious, I guess I'll ask the town manager, in terms of option number 1, and then with the add-on of the deck, et cetera, what our options are, but maybe I'm getting ahead of us. Maybe we need to really, if we're going to spend this type of money for what really is a prime location on Main Street, there should be more discussion on this. in terms of what we really want to do there. Have I given you a very clear question? Probably not.
Yeah,
It-
sure.
it-
No, I understand what you're saying, and when the Historical Society came and talked to me about sort of a lot of the things that you're raising now, I raised then. You know, how you're going to staff it, what's your plan for time, you know, all those kind of things, which are almost impossible to answer. You know, they said they've had some new members, you know, that's very encouraging in terms of that ability. And they own the building and we own the land it sits on. That's how this works. But I would offer that if the town is going to put $160,000 into a building, it's going to have an ownership interest in it. Not as that in the event the Historical Society ever decided it needed to do something different, that $160,000 investment on the part of the town would be cleared by a sale or whatever you did with the building, just because it's a significant amount of money that handles the moisture problem. But that's really all it handles. And that's what it was designed to do, the thing that affects the collection. And it wasn't designed to make it a year-round structure. It wasn't designed to do climate control. It wasn't designed to do any of these things that would make it a year-round facility. It's designed to keep it in its current use pattern, but not let the collection deteriorate further because of the moisture issues, and that a basement underneath would allow for other options for use should the town or the Historical Society want to do something else or add bathrooms or do that. But if you do that, then you're heating it. You're not going to have bathrooms that are, unless they're going to be seasonal like the ones we've got right now, which we have to shut off in October and turn on again in May. There's no, without heat, can't do that. But you've done a lot of work, and I appreciate it very much that you've sort of laid it out in this manner, and it gives the council some clear options if it wishes to participate in solving how do we keep our historical artifacts in a condition that they're going to still be available in another 100 years or whatever. So from that point of view, I think that the committee certainly has information that tells it this is the cost to make that happen in that location. That's true. And these other costs are, if you wanted to do something else in the basement, these are some cost estimates that the town could look at, that some of these things hit goals that we have, which are, opening that space up. And when we originally talked about the $3 million version, it was moving it up the hill and putting bathrooms in and doing that. There was a paper museum discussed, but that's down the road now, so that's not a use. But there could be a with heat usable space year-round downstairs, even if you didn't heat the upstairs. But all that aside, the bottom line is that the cost of making that structure into something that can house what it's housing without deteriorating it is $160,000. That's pretty much the cut to the chase version of where we are with this. And so the committee needs to decide if you're going to recommend to the council that they look at doing that, and if so, how they would look at wanting to pay for it. I think I've summed it up.
I think you have, much better than I did, thank you. What's the pleasure of the committee?
I don't know as I'm not 100% comfortable pushing anything to the council yet, myself. Because I'm kind of on the fence, because it is prime real estate, but this sketch is very intriguing. There's a lot of, in my mind, it's just rolling here, potential uses and events. That could be an extremely nice setup with what's being proposed here. I don't know myself if I'm ready to say, let's go in this direction 100% yet. But, so I don't know where we go from there.
Well, we can
Suggest to council to think
motion
about
to
it.
table the issue.
Well, I'm not saying table the issue, just. I don't know what I'm saying.
Do we want to bring it for council consideration? Perhaps, I mean, much like, like with the baseball field wall, not to compare the two, but maybe there needs to be some more input. I don't know that the three of us necessarily need to be the people that are.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be good for consideration.
right. Okay.
Because this is, I think the sketches are really well done there. I just could see that this could have a lot of good potential.
Yeah, and perhaps there is an opportunity to go beyond just the I see, yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not going to prolong it, but, yep.
So is it the committee's recommendation to put this to the council on their next agenda as a discussion item?
Yes. Well, I think so.
Sure.
Motion what Sue said.
Second.
Look at that. Thank you. So to clear that up, because maybe it isn't crystal clear, we will bring it to the council for discussion on our next agenda. Yep. Yep, absolutely. Thank you for the work here. I think there's something here. What that is, we'll get to, but there's something here because we can't just keep on this. So thank you. I'm doing okay time-wise. Let's see. Item 3 was map 2, lot 65, adjacent to the Miles Lane Trails is for sale.
There's 22 acres of land adjacent to the Miles Lane that's map 2, lot 65. It's a narrow, long lot. I think I've described that well.
Well, it'd be Bayview, the extent of Bayview all the way up through, 'cause that's where it comes from.
Yeah, but it's not a wide lot. It's a narrow lot. It's just 22 acres because it's a long distance. And it's adjacent to the Miles Lane Trails, and the property owner has it for sale and had come in some time ago and asked whether the town was interested. Since it's adjacent to school property and the trail, I asked Mr. Boothby, who indicated that they did not have. But then the owner came back recently and asked if I had presented to the town the idea of acquiring this land, and the answer was no, I have not. So I am to see if the owner's looking for $70,000 for this 22 acres that is adjacent to the trails. But it's, as I said, I don't know. We're not developers. We do our best to help people develop, but towns are poor developers because we have too many rules and we have too many hoops, and we have to have 5,000 people agree that it's a good idea. So we're not good developers, but we help people develop, do things. But I guess my question is if someone knows a use that we might have for this land that might be beneficial, and if so, is this something that the council as a whole would want to discuss?
And that doesn't come to Park Street, correct? It's over further.
It's not as far, no, it doesn't come to Park Street. It would be Bayview. If you took Bayview all the way out beyond the power line, that's where it would be.
It's back out towards Race Course.
Yeah, it
Also goes
fronts
up at
on
an angle.
Donovan, I think.
Okay.
Oh, the side road off the
Yeah.
race course.
That's the only true road frontage, I think, of the whole parcel is Donovan.
Yes.
Off the top of my head, the recreational, basically, is, unless we want to develop.
It's just my opinion that towns make bad developers. Not everyone, I'm sure, agrees with me.
I'm going to abstain because my company has it listed. So,
I can't think of any reason why. Did you have a comment, Larry? Yeah.
Is there a lot of wetlands in there? Do you know?
I don't know.
See,
I'll try and bring it up here.
I mean, it's just, it abuts the trails on that easterly side. You
And there
know,
was a question, he said, about whether maybe the trails infringed on them in some area, but that wasn't clear. That's what he said.
but the question you're asking this committee, is anyone aware of a potential use for that property?
That's right. And do you want the council as a whole to talk about whether there's a use?
I think it would be better if the council talked about it as a whole. We didn't have
Otherwise, you have two people making that decision. I don't know, yeah.
maybe think of
Yeah.
something that we're not.
Yep.
So you want to just move that for discussion to
Yep.
the council? Okay.
2 for 2.
Recreation-wise, I could see all kinds of uses.
Sure, but
To mix in with the trail system, but.
that should be a council. Yep, okay. Any other questions on that before we're good, you're abstaining, and, okay. I guess Ed will be the motion and I'll be the second, and then goes to Ken, yep. Next item is, that we had a request for flags on all poles on Main Street.
And this was raised by a gentleman to me at the post office. And because he indicated that places like Orrington and others had them on every pole, on all the poles through town. And the council talked about this several years ago. It's been since I was here. And the discussion was related to the fact that flags really are supposed to be on lighted poles, and so that every pole doesn't have a light. And that we have 2 really beautiful flag installations in Bucksport. One is the Memorial, which is stunning, and the other is Flag Point, which is beautiful from the bridge, let alone from downtown Bucksport, and that they were very respectful installations that really honor the flag. And there was discussion that when you put them on every flagpole, they become more of a decoration than they do a tribute. And not everyone believes that. Many people very much disagree with that. But that was the basis for what the council did. I don't remember. Councilor Downs, do you remember how many years? It's been within 8, because I'm in my 8th year, but I think it was 16 or 17 that the discussion came up, and that's where it ended up. But it's back. Someone has raised that subject again, and so the idea of discussing it, I put it on the agenda, and since no one's here to sort of speak to why it's here again, maybe we could table it until someone contacts me again to get it activated on the agenda. Would that,
motion to table.
does that
Yep.
make
Second.
sense? Okay.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Tim. And the next item, and we're doing very well on time, so thank you, everyone. And the final item, other than adjournment, is the outdoor meeting space request.
Mary Jane Bush had submitted information on the outdoor meeting space idea, and she'll speak in just a second. Today, our community and economic, I can't talk, development director had suggested the idea of perhaps utilizing the outdoor classroom at the middle school for this purpose. The school's constructed an outdoor classroom there that would have capacity for 25 people. It's directly adjacent to a parking lot, a large parking lot, so that parking wouldn't be, and Rich had indicated this would be seasonal because nobody's going to be anywhere in the middle of the winter outside at a meeting. That porta potties could be adjacent that could serve that and could also serve the trails which are there, and that would allow for, and I contacted Superintendent Boothby to find out if RSU 25 would have any appetite to allow this thing, and he said it would be possible with planning and organization, which means there has to be a process for how it gets used and who's responsible and those kind of things. Mary Jane, I had shared all this with her since I went up and took pictures of it, as a matter of fact. What are your thoughts, Mary Jane, on this?
Well, the background, I volunteer with Bucksboro Bay Healthy Communities and also the town's AARP Age and Ability Friendly Initiative, and have been talking with other age-friendly communities around the state who have been really struggling through the pandemic about offering programs where people felt comfortable coming out and being indoors. And a number of the initiatives had looked at outside meeting spaces, and the Blue Hill Age-Friendly Initiative actually started an outdoor cafe in Blue Hill over the summer, and were able to really attract people back to some of their programming through that means. So I reached out to Lisa Ladd and Bill Foster in terms of their interest, possibly, of looking at whether they would have a need in the future to be able to offer that type of programming in the spring, summer, and early fall. And they definitely had an interest, and we talked about two tracks on this. One was outdoor space, but the other was looking at a way to put more support in meetings that are held indoors, and seeing what technology exists that really could provide more preventive measures in terms of around COVID transmission. And so one was involving looking at air quality, air circulation issues at both the library and the senior center and other public venues. But Sue is Wonder Woman. I've never seen a problem solved so quickly. This is
That's
wonderful.
rich.
I saw pictures of the outdoor classroom, and I have to say there's some irony here, because I believe, if I remember correctly, and maybe Kathy Downs can confirm this, is that I think that building was constructed as a result of work that went on to look at potentially developing a nursing home not far from that site. But I may misremember that. But I think the site that that outdoor classroom would be extremely valuable. Lisa gave me feedback. I sent the information to her earlier, who was quite excited about it. I think certainly it has great potential to be very helpful.
It was rich. Rich Rotella is the genius here. He had the great idea.
Thank you.
What that does is provide something that could be utilized without a construction schedule in the, in our next season, which is definitely, organizing how this might work through RSU 25. They already have a permitting system in place for the use of their facilities, and I'm sure that the planning and organization that Superintendent Boothby was discussing, it would be an extension of that existing process to another one of their facilities, from cafeterias and playground and playing fields and all those kind of things, to include the outdoor classroom. So anyway, I thought that was and the idea of looking at air handling systems in the school has done an exhaustive evaluation of all of their facilities, and it's required for them by law. But having an evaluation of our section of the senior center and primarily this building, because this is the only one, the public safety building is pretty much closed to everyone except we're not holding public meetings in the public safety building. So having an evaluation of those would be possible, to just get an idea of what kind of exchanges are taking place and what might be recommended, if anything, for improvements. So Efficiency Maine has money all over the place for some things, so perhaps we could reach out to them and see if there's any that could help with the evaluation process for that.
Questions or comments there?
No, that sounds like the fastest fixed problem we have.
Yes. We didn't even have to. Yeah, that's how it should go, honestly. Yeah, so, yep, I guess what we can do there is bring that update on both of those fronts to the council. Do we need a motion for that?
But spring and fall, while school's still in session, that's an issue.
It couldn't be while school was in, something happening at 3:30 would be possible. School's out, that while they're not, it couldn't happen while school was in session, but after school would be a possibility. That's how things work now with what you use for their facilities.
Very good.
Do we need a motion?
I don't think so. I can just report that.
It's
back
just
to
a
the
report
council.
on, we might have found a way to
Yep.
do this.
As long
Are
as I
you
can
all
read
set,
my
Mary
notes.
Jane?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
I'm hanging up the phone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Motion adjourned.
Second?
Moving second. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.